Senator Joni Ernst, welcome to the Reagan Library.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Dave.
We are very grateful for your presence. First question. Not everyone may be aware that you yourself are a combat veteran and retired as a lieutenant colonel in the Iowa Army National Guard after 23 years of service. How has your time in uniform shaped your leadership and policy priorities in the Senate?
Well, thank you so much, Dave, and it's great to be here at the Ronald Reagan National Defense Forum. So my time in uniform really shaped me and my views of the world because I did serve in the Middle East, and that is a particular interest of mine now. So certainly when we look at the issues facing Israel, when we look at our friends and allies across the Middle East and the Abraham Accords, when we look at Iran and how they are a threat to so many of these other Arab nations, including Israel, it's very concerning to me. But again, service rooted me to that region. And it is an area that now that I'm out of uniform and serving in the United States Senate, it is an area that I like to focus on.
What called you to public service, and why should a young person or person of any age either join our military or serve in a civilian capacity?
Well, I was raised in a family of service, and I think that service is important for everyone, whether it's in uniform, whether it is in a number of other ways, supporting your community. And I always tell young people that are applying to our great service academies, the Air Force Academy, United States Military Academy, the Naval Academy, that when I look at their contributions, I just want to know that they're providing something back to someone. So whether it is donating blood, whether it is the desire to serve in uniform, it's reading to a child at a local library. There are so many ways that we all can contribute to make a stronger society. So I encourage that with younger people, and of course the desire to serve in elected office. It was really the way I used my springboard out of local community service, out of uniform, to serve today now in the United States Senate.
You've been very vocal on social media and elsewhere about your support for the Department of Government Efficiency. Some call it Doge. How do you see Doge reshaping government operations, particularly in the Pentagon and the armed forces? And what impact on national security and foreign policy do you anticipate that will have?
Well, I'm very excited about Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, and I am the Senate lead on the Doge Caucus, which means that I have the great ability to work with the Doge Caucus members, bring together ideas on whether it is cutting out waste, fraud, and abuse in our federal government or finding greater efficiencies. This can be worked and developed in every single agency and department that we have across the spectrum in federal government. So we are looking at ways to serve our constituencies and to protect their taxpayer dollars. And I think there's a lot of buy-in out there for that. But how do I see this playing out? Certainly working with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy at the Department of Government Efficiency, taking forward ideas from Congress, suggestions for cutting or improving efficiencies. They can work on that with the agencies, what they can do through the executive branch, and those of us in the Doge caucuses in Congress can then work on legislative fixes. So I think there's always ways we can find greater efficiency. And speaking with people at the Department of Defense, all of them are really excited about this new opportunity to drive efficiencies. We know that the Department of Defense is one of the most inefficient places. If you look at the Pentagon, the spending, the contracts, we can do better. So it's bringing thoughtful leaders together in a desire to do better for our nation and our taxpayers.
You're obviously a Republican. Should Democrats be involved with Doge?
Absolutely, Democrats should be engaged in Doge. And we have seen it already on the House side. And I do think there's a little bit of an interest coming from our Senate Democrats as well. Those that have worked in private industry know that you can always find efficiencies, and you should always strive to do better and modernize, also while providing great service for the people that we're accountable to. So I think that we can all come together in those common interests and support Doge.
You're privy to some of our nation's most sensitive information and analysis. So at an obviously unclassified level, are there any issues of importance or of concern that you think are not getting the type of attention that they deserve in the national conversation?
Absolutely. And this is one that cuts through every spectrum, every area of industry and business, as well as our federal governments and state and local governments. It's energy and energy sources. Now, as we look to the future, we know, and I'll use artificial intelligence as an example. I want to use the computing.
Requires a lot of energy.
It requires a lot of energy. So a lot of folks out there, they use technology every day. Artificial intelligence will continue to develop through the years. We have to have the energy to support. Now, I know in Iowa, we house a lot of data centers. It does require a lot of energy. Most Americans don't understand that if we do not develop enough energy sources to drive these data centers to enable artificial intelligence, we will have to house that data in other countries. This is a national security concern. It is something that we should be aware of, but there is not a lot of talk about this on the national stage.
It's a very serious issue, to be sure. President Reagan said, "We maintain the peace through our strength. Weakness only invites aggression."
Yes.
Especially as somebody who's a leader on the Senate Armed Services Committee, what does peace through strength mean today?
Peace through strength is incredibly important, and we have heard a lot of this discussion as we move through various election cycles. What does that look like from an American perspective now? Peace through strength. It doesn't mean that we withdraw from the world. It means that we put our own citizens first, but be strong enough that we can project power when absolutely necessary. So we need to make sure that we are strong, that we are bold, and that we stand by our allies, and that we put pressure on our adversaries. Ronald Reagan did this so well when he was our president. And I would love to see that same strength once again in the White House. It means that we are more secure as Americans, and we have a more peaceful and stable world.
You are a robust participant in the Reagan National Defense Forum every year. You participated robustly today. Are there any takeaways or a single takeaway or something that struck you about the discussions and the insights from today?
Dave, this is the best defense forum that I attend, and I am invited to many different defense forums around the globe. But the Reagan National Defense Forum, it is the best when it comes to national discussion about foreign policy issues, when it is on our own best interest, the men and women serving in uniform, the civilians that support our Department of Defense. We have those thorough, thoughtful discussions on every one of the platforms here at the Reagan Library. But beyond those discussions on stage, the various panels, we also have the extraordinary opportunity to touch so many different members, whether they're in our armed services, great thoughtful leaders, whether they are civilian counterparts, whether they are part of the defense industrial base. We can flesh out different issues, have those discussions, and make sure that we are coming together in this forum at this time and setting the stage for the next year, the next 2 years, the next 10 years.
Senator, we really appreciate your kind words and also that you voted with your time and with your feet by being here. So thank you for that. As someone who serves at the highest levels of government and as somebody who is engaged regularly in the Reagan National Defense Forum, What does Ronald Reagan mean to you?
I was a girl when Ronald Reagan was our president, and living in a very small rural community in southwest Iowa, we would watch the television, see him address our nation, and the way he carried himself with such a humble attitude, but also one that exuded strength. It was incredible for me to see that man on that television screen and know that he had all of us, even in the most remote areas of the United States, in his heart, in his mind, and taking care of all of us. And again, so important that he leveraged our military might to keep us safe. So, growing up in that era of Reagan, he impressed upon me so many different thoughts. But again, right here today, we see peace through strength. That all started with Ronald Reagan in my lifetime. And I know that I will carry that with me throughout my lifetime. And if I can ever live to fill the shoes that he wore by making sure that our nation and our world is a safer space, then not only has he done his job by so many great Americans, but I will have done mine as well.
Senator Joni Ernst, thank you so much for your beautiful, powerful words and for your leadership in the U.S. Senate. We're so grateful for you.
Thank you so much.